Welcome back, explorers. I'm Wesley, and that's David, and this is the Trailcast.
The weekly show that gets so far off track, you'll have to stick around to see just where we end up. Now, Wesley, you're not thinking four-dimensionally, okay? See, this episode, we're recording it on a Thursday, but it's actually going to come out on a Monday.
Oh, I guess that means that today we're talking about Back to the Future Part 3. While that intro was a little bit all over the place, we did, I think, get our point across. In that we are talking about Back to the Future Part 3.
Yes, we are indeed talking about Back to the Future Part 3.
So, that being said, David, you watched this movie, right?
Yes.
I've seen it before.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts after watching this movie and having seen it before?
I mean, it's a good movie.
Is it?
All right, podcast is over. That's a wrap. We're good. Bye. But no.
Isn't that what we do? We say movie's good, movie's bad, then we wrap it up. We do have Trailcast trivia, so we could do that. I guess we should talk a little bit more about the movie.
So, first off, let's go ahead and just kind of introduce the show here real quick. So, yes, today we are indeed talking about Back to the Future Part 3. And then later on in the show, we've got Trailcast Trivia. And followed up by that is What's New With You, where we will be talking about the season finale for Ahsoka.
We're going to wrap it all up in a minute 30, an hour 30. If we do all that in a minute 30, I think it's crazy.
A minute 30, we've already passed that, so yeah.
It's true. That intro is probably about a minute 30.
And we just can't stay focused this episode. So, with that being said, let's just dive into Back to the Future 3.
I made the comment when we were watching it, and I have to agree with her on this. This was a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something that you think about when you think about the Back to the Future franchise. Now, this one performed the lowest of all three of the movies. I feel like it's kind of like, watch the first one, and then it was like, that was such a huge success. So then they made the second one, which they made the second and third one at the same time. It's like, made the second one, people saw that, and then they watched the third one too. I feel like it kind of like puttered out as the trilogy went on. Not necessarily getting better. Like, you watch it, you can watch the first one by itself. You have to watch the second two kind of together, and you kind of have to watch the first one to watch the second one. Mm-hmm. It's very similar to like Pirates of the Caribbean, which we've talked about with this before. But like, I love the story that is told in Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, and it's not Stranger's Ties. Wait, is it Stranger's Ties?
That's the
Stranger Ties?
Fourth one, I think.
That's the fourth one.
I don't remember the names. I know the first one's Curse of the Black Pearl, but
Curse of the Black Pearl, Dead Man's Chest. I don't know. I'm gonna look this up because it's gonna bug me. But anyways, you can look it up while I'm talking. But what I'm saying is, like, I love the story that's told in the second two movies. Honestly, a little bit better than I like the first one. But the first one is a complete story, whereas you have to watch the other two kind of to get it. Now, my favorite of them is the third one, which we at this point in time do not know what the name of it is.
At World's End.
Remember?
I don't know why I didn't remember that. At
World's End. Yes.
Yeah.
World's End is probably my favorite of the Pirates franchise for me personally. Because I know the story. I don't have to watch the second one to understand what's happening in the third one. I've seen it enough times. Like, I feel like that's maybe a downfall of this third movie. Not many people will watch it, not many people will rewatch it, because you have to kind of know the other two movies to watch this one. And that's a lot of time to put in.
Mm. And yeah, it definitely is it's definitely also a departure from what we've seen in the previous two as well. It's a very different feeling movie.
I think it's less of a comedy than the other two are.
Well, also, like we mentioned in the recap, the stakes are also a lot higher too, because in the first two, Biff is the main antagonist, and okay, in the second one he does have a gun and he almost shoots Marty, but still in this one, they do something wrong, they're gonna end up getting killed by Buford.
And I know that you have the trivia, which I saw it. You won't give me a peek. You said no peeking this time. I'm not very happy about that. But anyways, whatever. So you did research for the Trailcast trivia, so I would assume that you would have come across this bit of trivia, whether you used it or not. But there is a deleted scene from the movie where Strickland gets shot by Buford. And that was taken out because they didn't want like that to be in the movie. But like, being that was an original thought with it, was just how much higher the stakes are in this movie. Because like originally they had a scene shot where someone gets shot and dies. Obviously the end result, the end movie doesn't have that in it. But, like that was a thing. That was a possibility that they could have had in there. That would have been such a departure from the first two movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously George McFly dies in it, but they don't show that. They just kind of hint at it and it makes sense too. This kind of would be like just showing how bad Buford is without. It's not as necessary as that was.
Mm-hmm. Well, because in the second one with George McFly dying, like that's just kind of mentioned in passing. It's not shown. Where I get what you're saying. Like this is actually shown, but yeah. Now I don't want. I know we typically try not to jump around too much with these, but one thing I do want to talk about is one thing that is in my mind right now. I want to mention it before I forget it. So at the end of the movie, throughout the second and third one, Doc's talking about needing to destroy the DeLorean because it's caused nothing but trouble.
Yeah.
So, of course, when Marty gets back to the future, the train's coming, and so he's like, okay, I'll get out. And he makes a comment, well, it's destroyed. But what does Doc do? He builds another time machine. Like...
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple things that like doesn't make sense with Doc in this movie. One of which being that he talks about how he can't have any romantic involvement with anyone because that's going to change the course of history and have such a big ramifications on the future. But then, as obviously he has the relationship with Clara Clayton. That's honestly the least of the problems there. The fact that they saved her from her death is a bigger problem than him having a romantic relationship with her. Because if she was dead, she wouldn't have had a romantic relationship with anyone else. No harm, no foul with that, but she's alive. So maybe that was his reasoning why he decided to make the time machine, because he was like, well, we're kind of people out of time as it is. Maybe we should just... it doesn't really make much sense. Also, at the end of the movie, makes the comment to Jennifer when she's showing him the paper and saying, hey, this used to say you're fired on it, now it doesn't. And he says, well, that just means that your future is hasn't been written yet, and y'all can decide for yourselves. But like, Doc's already been to the future. So then does he have to go back again to figure out what... Also, with that in mind, what if they change the future in the past? That would change things down the line, which means is nobody's history in stone? About all of time and history? Because you change literally everything about history if you use the time machine. So obviously, we've talked about this movie's time travel logic is a little flimsy. It doesn't make the most sense if you really analyze it. Like, you think about a couple things like that, you're just like, how are you supposed to? It was a great movie.
I think I know, like when I'm picking apart the time travel logic with these movies, I'm mostly joking, just because I know it's a movie. You're not supposed to take it seriously. The the logic doesn't have to be logical. It's a movie. um, but
Yes.
at the same time, when the movie explains something, and then there's instances that might break the explanation. That.
Yeah. And it breaks the explanation, but it doesn't always like there are certain movies where like they say things like that and then they break the rules afterwards, but they're played off as like a joke or like it's kind of how the series or movie goes. Like that's just you're expecting that out of this. This sets rules, and within the realm of the movie, you expect it to follow those set
Mm,
rules. And in some ways it does. Like, I mean, if you really break apart the first movie, it's not um flawless. But I think the first movie's time travel logic made more sense than some of the other ones, and maybe even the second one as well. But this one, with what Doc does, it starts to break down, and you really
mm.
start thinking about it a little bit more, and
Well,
you're like, but what if this
okay.
happens?
Really, the only two things that I think really break the continuity across the three movies are this, what we're talking about here, and in the second one when old Biff goes back to the 1980 or the 2015 that he left from,
Yeah, that obviously
because he
doesn't
went
make any
back and
sense
changed the
either.
past, but then he came back to the same future he left. So
Mm.
that's those are the only two things I can think of that really don't make much sense with the time travel thing. But again, it's a movie. um,
Mm. One thing though too that I heard these is that uh how does it go? Um the first movie is really about George and Lorraine.
mm,
It's their story. Second movie is about Biff. The third story is about Doc. So, and like as Marty being the main character, the audience is with Marty, kind of watching things as he watches it. I he back on it. That makes a lot of sense, and you can see that because there's a little character growth at the end of this movie with Marty. All in all, throughout the series, he's basically the same character. He's pretty
mm,
stagnant. It kind of makes some sense too. Which talking about Marty's character growth in this makes me think of one thing that Marty does that doesn't make a whole lot of sense in this movie, which we can get to in a second. But with that in mind, like I feel like that might be one reason why this movie is a little bit. It has those comedic parts to it, but it's not as comedy filled as the other ones have been. Like the past two movies with the scene, they have the same scene in every single movie, but it's where his mom picks him up and he's like, you're high, 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 and he keeps staring. Um, anyways, so this scene didn't have it because they basically brushed off that whole entire sequence. Like there was a little things with it, and he got to meet Shameless McFly, but like most part, that aspect of the story was very inconsequential as opposed to a lot of the other stuff that happens in more of the other movies. And I feel like a lot of that aspect makes it a little bit more comedic and stuff like that. And they really focused on the love story of Doc and Clara.
mm.
This, I mean, Doc's not a complete serious character. Like there are funny moments with him, and obviously there's a lot of laughs made at Buford's expense too. Like it's not as funny a movie. Which isn't a knock on it. Like I thought it was still good.
Mm.
It's a different, like you said at the beginning of this all, it's a different feel than the other two movies.
Mm. I also like that it does like it being a western. It does cut down on some of the comedy, actually make it more more serious. So like just because the genre shift, I feel like I feel like that that's a lot of where the well both the tone of the movie and the like cutting the comedic aspects of it. I feel like that's where a lot of that comes from.
Now, one thing I do want to talk about though with this is, like I said, Marty's character arc in this. So his character arc throughout this movie is that he needs to learn that not to take everything so personally. Basically, is what he needs to learn. Because for the past two movies, he gets called chicken in the Back to the Future 2, or in this one, he gets called yellow belly. So either one of those phrases, he stops in his track, and all of a sudden, he's ready to fight someone. Oh, in this movie, we see just how lethal fighting is. It's not just a fist fight. He can get beat up and hurt real bad. Now, this is one where he can die. Anyways, so at the party, stands up to Buford, and Buford challenges him to a duel, which Marty accepts because he's not Yellow Belly. Then Marty's plan is to be gone by the time have the duel. Plan on being out of there. So why does he care that? Because the thing is, he could say, "Oh, he's saving face." If he doesn't show up, people are gonna be like, "Oh yeah," because he's Clint Eastwood at this point. Like, "Oh, Clint Eastwood is the yellowest of bellies," or whatever. Like it's like, what are you doing? Like you're putting your neck out there for no reward because you're planning on being gone. If you're planning on being gone as it is, just be gone and don't do it. Take the insult and run.
Yeah, but I mean, over the trilogy, Marty's. I mean, obviously Marty's the main character, but he's really the only one that has much of a character development. Because, well, okay, obviously like Doc, we see several different versions of Doc throughout the trilogy, or at least, well, there's the 1955 Doc and the 1985 Doc. So there's two different versions of Doc we see throughout the franchise, and yes, I guess you could say the most of his character development is, of course, falling in love in this movie. But thinking about it, I don't really see much of a character development with Doc. I would say I would say maybe realizing that time travel's bad to mess with, but we already talked about the fact that he builds another time machine. But
yeah, maybe it's not so bad to mess with. I would agree with what you're saying with that. I mean, Doc doesn't really have a whole lot of development. I mean, he does flip flop back and forth. Time machine, no. Time machine, yes. So, but that is the thing, though. You think about with this series, like, yeah, we're. I think this is where you were getting at with this, saying this. But sorry, the mic. I don't really know how much that actually does. Because usually I don't hear it too much in the post. But anyways, so like I think this is where you're getting at it with, like, Marty's one of the few, if only, characters to actually have much development throughout the series, but he has very little throughout the series as well. So you think about that. This is a trilogy of characters that really don't have much growth of any kind.
Well, I mean, interesting. And even like in the first one, we see like George and Lorraine, but at the same time, we already know where they end up. We already know who they end up as. So, really, they don't really change a whole lot from when they're in high school to when they're adults. So like a lot of the characters that are in these movies, don't really have much of a character growth, with the exception of Marty.
I think honestly too, from what I've heard, the reason that Marty had somewhat of a character growth with it all is because of the backlash that I can't remember what the guy's name is, but the actor who played George McFly in the first movie um, didn't want to reappear as George McFly. He didn't want to be in the movies anymore because he didn't like how the first movie ended with basically like there was no lessons learned. It was just you know got the girl and now you have you're financially you're better off. You like all your problems are solved now. Like you're in a better spot. Like he didn't like the materialistic reward aspect of the ending of the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I think that's like they were maybe mending some wounds with this movie here. In that they didn't have that at the end of this movie. Marty actually learned a lesson because at the end of this first movie, he doesn't learn a lesson. He just got back to the future, back to his time frame, and now his parents are, cooler, I guess, and better off, and all their dreams came true, kind of a thing. In this movie, he actually changes. He actually has to make some tough decisions and swallow his pride, like at the end of the movie when he has to turn down the race with needles.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no, that's not important. I don't need to prove anything to this other guy. I'm going to be the bigger man here. He doesn't. Luckily, no one's behind him. Doesn't. So, he does have some growth. It's in a more like learned something through this experience, whereas in the first one he didn't learn anything.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like, because really, like you said, and we've talked about before, the second and third one are really one whole story. So if you look at the when I'm talking about his character development, I'm not just talking about in the third one. I'm talking about over the second and the third one because really it is one continue. I mean, really the whole trilogy is one continuous story, but the second and third one especially because they were meant to be.
I mean, and obviously, and just from what I'm hearing, I feel like we're seeing this in two different ways, which is fine. I mean, we both can see things differently. Like, I don't see it as much as he had that much growth. Okay, there's hints at it. Hints at that he will have that growth at the end of it. I don't really see him growing throughout the second and the third movie. Because he's still, like, at the end of the second movie and the beginning of the third movie and throughout the third movie, he's still getting tripped up by the same pride that he's been having throughout the whole entire trilogy. But there's hints at the fact that he's going to change, with just different characters trying to get into him, he doesn't need to have to do that.
I think the biggest thing is him talking to Seamus, and Seamus talking about his brother.
Yeah, that is one thing, because that does kind of stop him in his tracks. Now, well, let's see. That's after he agrees to the duel, and after that, I mean, he doesn't really do too much that stupid stuff that he's been doing with his, basically just standing up for his pride. But yeah, I think that's a pivotal part in it, that he kind of like he sees that and he's like, oh yeah, I could get killed. Oh yeah, I could really get killed because here I am with a gun, ready to take on someone else with a gun. And I may be real good at arcade games at 7-Eleven. He's killed a lot more people.
And there's also a big difference between shooting in a controlled setting versus something like a duel.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's also kind of impressive that shooting at playing the arcade game actually translates perfectly to shooting with a Colt.
I mean, Why wouldn't it, David? I mean, come on, let's be serious here. Isn't all your all arcade shooting helped you with handling all of the firearms you use today?
Sure.
Did all the firearm use you had as a kid translate to help you use all the firearms you have today?
Reminds me of in Parks and Rec. You remember when Ron is at that arcade or thing, or whatever, and he's playing the hunting game, and
Yes.
he just can't do it, and Donna smokes him, and he's just like, and then they actually go.
He takes Donna out into the woods.
Yeah.
He's like, let's go actual hunting.
That's
they don't always translate that great.
Yeah.
Don't always do the greatest. But David, they translate amazingly. If you want to get good at shooting a gun, go to an arcade. I mean, it's basically the same thing.
Sure. At least in this universe, it is.
The current one that we're in, yes.
I was talking about Back to the Future, but I guess it is Back to the Future.
The current one that we're in, because yes. Okay, good. Now that we're understanding, what else do you have to say about this movie? I know we haven't been talking for that long, but I don't really know how much I have to say about it.
I mean, okay, because in all reality, it does repeat a lot of the same tropes and the same jokes and the same, just a lot of stuff from the first two. Because I love these movies; they are very repetitive.
Yeah. And I think that like you said at one point, how like watching them back to back to back, it's kind of hard when you watch like how repetitive they are. Personally, I feel like we've spread them out enough that when I go to watch them, I've had enough stuff happen in between watches that it doesn't seem that repetitive. I still remember the other story, but like can watch it and still be like, oh yeah, this happened before, but I'm not tired of it necessarily. I mean, no, I mean the only thing that I can really say else about this movie is that it's a fitting end to this franchise. I think it's a good movie. It's a completely underrated movie. It's a good watch, but no.
Well, okay, like I said, when we started doing these, I had forgotten how good the second two are, because I have seen the first one way more times than I've seen the other two. I've probably seen the first one twice as many times as I've seen the second two combined.
Hmm. I love the intricacy of the second two. Like, there's so many different, like, obviously because they're shot at the same time. There's so many different things that bleed into the other, like, into the two movies. So there's like cliffhangers, not cliffhangers, but like Easter eggs here and there for the upcoming movie. And like it's so cool to see them all knitted together. And watching through the second one this past time, because I remembered enough about the third one, even though I hadn't seen it in a while. I knew enough about it to watch that and be like, oh yeah, I remember that that's a Easter egg for the next movie, and like watching the next one and be like, oh yeah, that's a payoff from the second movie, So it's like I like seeing that doesn't come in with the first one. I also think that they tied the first one really well into the second two, being that the first one was meant to be a standalone movie. Despite how it ends, it still was meant to be a standalone movie.
Mm-hmm. Also, can we talk about the fact of like these with how across the franchise, the thing with the pictures changing when stuff in the past gets changed? Okay, so in the first one, Marty and his siblings start disappearing in the picture. If they didn't exist, why did someone just take a random picture of that background?
Yeah.
And the same thing with like the tombstone, like, okay, maybe the picture, because Marty may still have been there because that was in his past, but and he was the actual one who physically took the picture. But you're telling me that
it makes a little more sense.
Are you telling me they, if Marty had gotten shot instead of Doc, that they would have used the exact same tombstone they would have for Doc and buried him in the exact same place.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, like you said before, there's definitely parts about it that are like, don't necessarily add up, and if you overanalyze it, watching it as like, it's a movie, like things have to happen. I think this also like this thing. You overanalyze anything, you're gonna see things in it that are like, hey, this is something that I'd say is a problem. This is something I'd say is a problem. This. Uh, Eventually, you're gonna find holes in it, even the best movies. But I feel like these movies, I would have to watch very similar to how we were talking last week, how I would watch Return of the Jedi. You can't really overanalyze it, because if you do, it's all gonna fall apart. It's not gonna make sense. Like, it's not meant for that. It's a kids, not necessarily, because I don't know if these are kids movies. They have some adult themes, but I don't even know if they're safe for adults. But it's some interesting themes, and to say the least. I watched these when I was younger, and
that's probably what's wrong with you now.
Yeah, I remember at Mamaw and Papa's house, Papa was like, I haven't seen these in years, and Dad was like, oh yeah, I remember those, and we all three sat down in the living room and watched the first one, and I think the next couple weeks, because we go over on Friday night dinners, for those of you who are unaware of this, stupid people. No, I'm kidding. So when I was growing up, my grandparents lived not too far down the road. We lived in the same town. So on Fridays, we would go to Friday night dinner. And so we watched the first one Friday, and then the next Friday we watched the second one, and then the Friday after that we watched the third one. I remember watching them for the first time there. And so I don't know how old I was. I might have been in junior high or high school. But there are definitely some interesting themes in these movies.
Well, I mean, if you don't really have that much else to say about the third one, because for some reason, maybe it's because I watched it like 4 days ago, something like that. Anyway, maybe it's because I watched it, a while back. Maybe it's because it was not as fresh in my mind. Maybe it's why I can't think as much. But it seems like we're talking about the franchise more so than the specific movie right now. So why don't we just go ahead and move on to Truckcast Trivia? Because I have 15 questions, and they're about the franchise, not about the third one specifically. So why don't we going to move on over there, and then we can just because we've already been recording for like 30 minutes, and this will probably put us like another 45 to an hour. So
I figured that this would be a shorter talk with it. I mean, not Star Wars.
Yeah, and we don't need to fill time the way we did in the first Back to the Future podcast episode.
I don't remember that. What did we do?
We spent like 20 minutes trying to do math, trying to figure out if the DeLorean could get up to 88 miles an hour in the parking lot at the mall.
Yeah. I don't remember what it was. Oh yeah, my sister texted me the other day, and she was listening to our Hunger Games podcast, I think. She was making fun of me for calling them Cracker Jackers.
Cracker Jackers. Yes.
And then she mentioned something about I think we were talking a little bit after that, and there's just something about me doing math. I was like, good at math. Doesn't believe me. After hearing me do it on the podcast. This is my fried brain, all right? This is me after a long work day and getting up early in the morning. This is not me prime time.
Throwing tree rocks.
Shut up. Retrospective trivia, David. Answer. Ask me some questions.
All right. Well, I did put some in that doc. If you want to go look at them, I've got the first 4 in there right now. So
Screw, I think I had them all in there.
No, not yet.
I don't know any of these.
Okay, so Trailcast Trivia. Still don't have an intro.
Trailcast Trivia.
Thank you, Wesley. Thank you. All right, so
You're welcome. Thank you. Wait. Where's my soundboard? Wait. Thank you. I'm honored. Wait, ask me the first question.
right. Okay, question number 1. What is the date that Marty originally leaves from in Back to the Future? Is it A, October 18th, 1985, B, October 21st, 1985, C, October 26th, 1985, or D, November 5th, 1985?
I don't like this. Let's go back to Star Wars.
So,
I at least have a chance with those.
I have 15 questions here. Last week you were talking about your 50%. If you can go 7 and 8, I'll give you credit for winning this one.
I don't like you, David. Okay. Oh. Okay. I don't have a thought process with this. It's just what looks the most right. So, anyone at home who wants to play along, I'm only going to make this announcement one time. After David gets done reading each of the questions and listing off the option, if you want to play along, go ahead and pause it after that. I'll give a brief bit of time, before I start talking. But I'm going to answer after that brief pause so that I don't have to reiterate this every single time. So for those of you who are still listening and haven't paused it and want to play along, pause it. So I'm going to go with the November 5th, 1985 because I don't know, it stands out. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, again, I was not nice in this one at all. Just
yeah, no,
because they don't really make a big point of the date like they do in the when they go back into the past or into the future. Just they don't really make a big point about it. But the answer is C, October 26th, 1989.
For you. That was when what he left from?
Well, that's what he left from, what he came back to in, every movie, because every movie, like the 1985 scenes, just pretty much take place over the span of 2 days. In the first one, it's the day before, and then that day. But, technically it's like 2 a.m. on that day, but still. Anyway.
0-1 now.
0-1. Question number 2. Who plays Biff Tannen? Is it A, Thomas F. Wilson, B, Billy Zane, C, Crispin Glover, or D, Bob Gale?
I did think about this. I don't know necessarily all the ins and outs of what you did when you made the Trailcast trivia video. You should put a little tally up so that you can see what I've gotten right and what I've gotten wrong.
I should have done that with the one last week. I will do that this week for you. In fact, I'm going to go and put that in there right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't want to 0-1. Switch that around for you, David. All right. I don't have a guess. No, I have to guess. I don't have a guess. I'm going to go with A, Thomas F. Wilson. It does not sound right. I don't know. I don't know. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. I don't care anymore.
You are 1-1. That is correct. You're 1-1. That's correct. It is A, Thomas F. Wilson. He plays.
It looked the most right.
He plays, of course, Biff Tannen, Griff Tannen, and Buford Tannen. I will say some of these first ones might be a little bit harder. I did throw some easier ones in later on, but some of these first.
I've answered a couple on the thing too, so I get to see those answers.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
I really only need to get like 3 right, because I already should know the answers to the other one.
Alright, so question number 3. What is the date of Doc Brown's death found on the tombstone in the beginning of Back to the Future 3? Is it A, November 2nd, 1985, B, September 9th, 1885? Did I say 1985 before? I meant to say 1885. But anyway, C, September 9th, 1885, or D, September 7th, 1885. It's all the same year, but yeah.
I think I remember this one, but I'm not very confident. But I at least have a guess, you know.
Okay, well, what's your guess?
Now it's all going blurry. I think it's September 7th, 1885.
September 7th?
Oh, wait, no. Before you say anything, I said September 7th. That's one of the things you have. Now I have to remember, is it September or is it 7th or the 9th? Because I think he sent the letter September 1st. Okay, well, I don't need to overthink this because I'm gonna screw with my head and I'm gonna overthink something that doesn't need to be overthink. I'm okay going 1 and 2. September 7th, 1885. Final answer.
That is correct. It is D, September 7th, 1885.
God, I didn't overthink it.
Yes. Okay, so in the first
Don't you think too hard. My head already hurts.
So obviously when they go back to 1955, that's in actually, do I have a question about that later on? I don't think I do. Okay. So but yeah, obviously when they go back to 1955, that's in November. And then the 2015 is in October. Obviously all the 1985 stuff is October as well, and it's September in 1885.
It's been there for a couple months.
Doc had, but when Marty gets there, it's still September.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Guys. What was I going to say? That's what I was going to say. David, don't worry if you spoil an answer for one of the next questions because I'm not paying enough attention to pick up on it.
Okay, so
block out most of everything you say anyway.
Question number 4. Now this one you should get right. Question number 4. What is the name of the dance from the first Back to the Future? Is it A, the Time Warp Dance, B, the Enchantment Under the Sea Dance, C, the Sea Enchantment Ball, or D, the Enchanted Sea Dance?
You really ran out of ideas with what to call this, didn't you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. When you first, because we're talking in this podcast, we're talking about the third Back to the Future. I thought you were going to ask me what the name of that dance was, what that festival was, and I was like, I don't have a hope. I have a shot in the dark. I don't have anything. But I do know this one. This is the Enchantment Under the Sea Dance.
Yes.
Okay, I think I know this one, and my answer is okay,
yes,
I got it right.
That's correct. Yeah. So
I needed to come into that with a less confidence because, I don't.
Okay. So
what am I at right now?
You're 3-1. Okay. Look,
who's 3-1?
I know these are kind of hard, so I had to throw you a couple bones.
Hello.
So, yes, you are 3-1.
Hey,
I had to throw you a couple bones.
Want your bones? Scrawny. Anyway, no, those are my bones. Never mind.
Okay. So now, all right. So now, question number 5. When was Back to the Future Part 3 originally released in theaters? Was it A, May 20th, 1990, B, May 4th, 1990, C, May 25th, 1990, or D, June 1st, 1990?
You hate me, don't you?
I promise this is the last date.
I'm going to have an aneurysm.
Also,
it's going to be your fault.
Also, do these answers look familiar to you?
Yes. Oh. Should they?
Well, I'll get your answer, and then I'll tell you why they should be familiar to you.
Did you put all the same ones from the same, not the same ones, but the same ones from the last one? And just change the year.
Yep.
May 4th, May 25th, June 1st. This movie come out. I don't know. It's the one random off on a Tuesday. Hey, I'm gonna go with D. June 1st, 1990. Oh, screw you, David.
Did you actually look at the calendar for this?
Is it a Tuesday?
No, it's actually not. But
then why would you say that?
Well,
no, I didn't look at the calendar for it. I think I'm gonna go, David. First off, if I'm gonna look at something, I'm gonna look at the answer, not at the calendar.
Okay,
Go through the trouble of looking it up.
But no, that's incorrect.
Yeah.
The correct date is May 25th. Again. I saw that. Okay. I saw that, and just because of the last question, the last one, I had to do that just because it's the same. I could put the same answers. Oh.
David, nobody likes you. Will die alone. Because I'm going to come to your house today and kill you.
So you are 3-2.
All right.
You still have a
death threats aside.
You still have a winning record.
Threats aside. It's okay. It's okay. I'll calm down. I only vaguely know this next one.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, what was I doing?
You are asking me the next question.
Right. Okay, so question number 6. Who directed all 3 Back to the Future movies? Was it A, Steven Spielberg, B, Barry Sonnenfeld, C, Robert Zemeckis, or D, Bob Gale?
So here's my thing. I know Steven Spielberg produced them. They went to him to ask if he would produce them. I think he did produce them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not entirely sure. I know the name Robert Zemeckis. He might just be one of the 2 guys that was a helping hand in bringing this to, writing it basically, bringing the story to life. I'm pretty sure he was the director, so that's going to be my answer, because I know it's not Steven Spielberg, and Robert Zemeckis is the only other guy that I recognize on there within this realm. So, C, Robert Zemeckis, go ahead. Tell me I'm wrong. I'll go to 3-3.
Okay, so you're correct. Steven Spielberg directed Back to the Future. Now, Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale were the co-writers of all 3 Back to the Future movies. And you are correct. Robert Zemeckis was the one who directed them. So you are 4-2 now.
See, I know my stuff. I want to.
All right. And now you're probably seeing why I didn't show you all the questions at once. Question number 7. Which of the following movies was not directed by Zemeckis? Was it A, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, B, Men in Black, C, Castaway, or D, Forrest Gump?
I know he directed Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He made Who Framed Roger Rabbit because he and Bob Gale had a bunch of flops with Spielberg's name on it, and they didn't want to have another one before they pitched the idea of Back to the Future. So they made Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and they went to Spielberg saying, hey, we have a successful movie. Maybe we can have you produce this over here, and it just doesn't look like when we team up that we make flops. So anyways, I just don't know if Men in Black, Castaway, or Forrest Gump. Those are big movies. I mean, I guess he is a. I mean, he directed this, but I just when I thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
In Black, Castaway. Go with the odd man out here, Men in Black. Should I go with one of the two of what's his names? What Hanks is? Hey, this one's Castaway.
Yeah,
thinking of the right
Castaway is Tom Hanks.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah.
I've seen the first half of that movie.
Yeah.
I think.
Wilson.
Thinking about the first one. Yeah.
No.
I don't know why I didn't watch the rest of it. I don't remember when I was watching it either. I just don't remember watching the whole thing. D. Forrest Gump. I don't know. I'm just gonna say that because I don't know why I wouldn't. I'm just gonna say I like Forrest Gump the best out of all those, but I don't know why that would relate to me saying that he didn't direct it. So he's not a bad director. So I'm just gonna go with that. Because why not?
That is incorrect. It was
Black.
It was the outlier. It was Men in Black.
Mm-hmm. I didn't. That's interesting that he directed those two.
Yeah. So Men in Black. The reason I put that in there is because it kind of feels like it would be, the sci-fi comic relief kind of the same vein as Back to the Future, but.
The thing I haven't. I mean, obviously I have because his movies on here are by him. I haven't knowingly watched enough of Robert Zemeckis' movies to know what genre he specifically does. So if you could put any movie in there, I wouldn't have known.
I was doing it because it's the same genre as Back to the Future, but yeah. Anyway, so you are.
Should have gone with it.
You're 4 and 3.
Should have gone with my gut.
So you're still at 50% for the questions you've answered. Actually, slightly better than 50%.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I know what this next one is.
Yeah. So the next one, I'm assuming a bunch of people have heard this. If you watch any kind of fun fact thing about this movie, this is one of them. So question number 8: Back to the Future almost had a different title. What was this alternate title? Is it A, Back to the Past, B, Spaceman from Pluto, C, Doc Brown and His Amazing Time Machine, or D, is something wrong with Marty McFly? Because seriously, that's his mom.
That would have been a very long title, kind of like what they were pitching for Star Wars. Yeah, no, I know what this one is. It's the outlier from this group because all the other ones make sense that you made them up.
Yeah.
Spaceman from Pluto, though, is what the original person wanted to call, or not the original person. They were like, "Hey, let's call it this," and they were like, "No."
It was someone from the studio had pitched the name. I forget who it was, but yes, you're correct. It's Spaceman from Pluto. I don't understand where the title comes from, though. Like, what?
I don't even know.
What does that have to do with the movie?
Exactly. We're gonna make a time travel movie. Okay, cool. It's gonna be about this guy from 1985. He's gonna go in the past to meet his dad. Let's call it Spaceman from Pluto. Why? Because I love that name. Why? It's amazing, right? Doesn't even fit. It's amazing. Oh, it's stupid. Going with Back to the Future.
So yeah, you are 5 and 3.
Tell me what I is. Be it anyways.
I didn't tell you what you is. I told you what you am.
Dang it. The next question.
Next question. Question number 9. In the original script for Back to the Future, Doc Brown had a different pet than Einstein. What was this different pet? Is it A, a cat named Whiskers, B, a fish named Whiskers, C, a chimp named Shemp, or D, a dog named Newton?
I honestly don't know, but I think I remember in some of the stuff that I was listening to that he was supposed to have a chimp. Now the name I don't remember, but I think I remember there being something about him having a chimp. So that is going to be my answer: is that he was supposed to have a chimp named Shemp, even though that sounds definitely made up by you. I remember him having a chimp. Like I remember that being something that I heard. I could the name is complete. So if I fall for it and you're like, I put that on there as chimp named Shimp, I don't care. I didn't fall for the name. I just thought I remembered them being a chimp.
You are correct. It was a chimp named Shimp.
Wonder they got a dog named Einstein.
I thought the fish named Whiskers was just Doc Brown enough that it might.
I was about to go for a cat named Whiskers because I was like, that seems more like what they would do with the movie. But I was like, nah, I'm gonna go with the chimp because I think I remember that.
So, also, I did have a lot more trouble coming up with some of the multiple choice answers for this one because with George Lucas, it's easy because he's got predictable naming conventions. It was harder with some of these. Okay, so what are you? You're 6 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So one more.
What question are we on?
9. No, you just answered 9.
Only missed 3.
Yeah. Okay. So.
But yeah, 6 and 3.
All right. So, question number 10. What? Okay. What is the name of the arcade game Marty plays in the '80s cafe from Back to the Future Part 2? Is it A, Duck Hunt, B, Big Iron, C, Wild Gunman, or D, High Noon?
Said Duck Hunt, so I wanted to put in the quack. My answer is going to be Wild Gunman because fun. I think that's a game. I don't know. I think it's Wild Gunman. That's what I'm going to go with. I don't really care. Let's see. I got one. I only have to answer one more right, so I don't have to take any of these others seriously. So, Wild Gunman.
That is correct. It is C,
I know.
Wild Gunman. Fun fact about that is that game, I think it was originally released on, it was either the NES or the SNES. I don't remember which one. But they actually had to make a custom arcade box for it because it was never released as an arcade game. It was just released for home consoles.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're done melting our brains, let's head on to the next one.
All right, so question 11. What is the name of Marty's band? Is it A, the Pinheads, B, the Slackers, C, the Stingers, or D, the Spacemen from Pluto?
You're gonna catch me? That stupid. Yeah, I ain't gonna fall for it. Ain't no way they were called the Pinheads. They're definitely called the Spacemen from Pluto. That's where the name comes in.
Honestly, that would make more sense if it was, but
yeah, it would. Maybe that's what the guy was petitioning. So the Slackers is obviously a reference to Strickland. The Spaceman from Pluto is a reference to the name that never was. Thank God. I feel like the Pinheads is just a little bit too mean. So I'm gonna go with the Stingers because I don't know. I don't have any clue what the name of their band was. I don't even remember them mentioning it. But I'm gonna go with the Stingers because it sounds like maybe something Marty would come up with. I feel like Pinhead's just an insult.
well, you better be glad you got that last one right because you're 7-4 now. It was.
Well, if I didn't,
It was A, the Pinheads.
stupid.
Mm-hmm.
What is Marty doing? No wonder he's never going to be a success.
All right,
Calling
so
his band the Pinheads.
All right,
A
so
bunch of pins in their heads. They can't think straight.
all right. Question 12. Who does not make a cameo appearance in the Back to the Future franchise? Is it A. Huey Lewis, B. Elijah Wood, C. Michael Jackson, or D. Flea?
Who's Flea?
Flea is the basis for the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Know that. I just think. When it comes to like, I'll listen to their music. I don't know who anyone in the band is. I could care less. So I know Elijah Wood's in it. Lewis is in the first one. Michael Jackson, I think, makes a cameo. I don't know if he actually makes a face cameo, but I know that he's on a poster somewhere. I don't know if you're counting that or not. I'm gonna go with D, hoping that doesn't count the one, because he makes some background appearances or something like on some poster or something like that. So, I don't care. I'm 7. I got 7. I'm over 50%. I'm over 50%. So it's D. The Flea does not make.
That is incorrect. Flea plays needles.
You're not counting Michael Jackson's?
So Huey Lewis is, of course, one of the judges in the Battle of the Bands. Elijah Wood is the kid in the Cafe 80s. So Michael Jackson appears... So, okay. The Michael Jackson that appears in Back to the Future 2 was not actually portrayed by Jackson himself. Instead, he was portrayed by E. Casanova.
He actually does appear in like.
So one of the robot things with the screen on it plays a clip of Michael Jackson, but it's not actually Michael Jackson. It's a E. Casanova who's a Michael Jackson impersonator.
Okay.
So that one was tricky. Okay. I will give you that one. Well, here I'll throw.
I don't even know who the heck Flea is, so.
I'll throw you another.
It's a nuisance. It's a nuisance on my dog. I don't know.
I'll throw you another bone here. So, question 13. What was the nickname of Buford Tannen? I don't even need to read you the multiple choice answers. You know this one.
Yeah, but you need to read it for the audience.
Okay, fine. Is it A, Texas Red, B, Mad Dog, C, the Hill Valley Terror, or D, Colt?
I know, but whatever you do, don't call him this. Mad Dog. Buford Mad Dog Tannen.
Yep, that's... Yeah. Like I said, I had to throw you a few bones, because I know some of these are hard. But yes, you are correct. B, Buford Mad Dog Tannen. So you are 8 and... What is this? 8 and 5?
No, what we really need to do is we really need to find out how you would do on some of these. Because, see, everyone's going to be like, look at him. He just can't get any of these right. David knows all the answers, but it's like, of course, you do the research. So we need to find out how you do on some of these. I don't want to do the research, so I'm fine doing it this way.
I was about to say, you want to volunteer to do the research for one of these?
Yeah, I'll do that in my free time.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
nothing but softballs.
Yeah, the last two are.
That's what she said.
What?
Are you even listening to a thing I said?
No. Okay.
Okay, good.
Now,
sorry for anyone who has. David, go ahead and ask us next question.
Okay, so the last two are, again, really no one should. Well, maybe this next one, but the last one no one should really know. Okay, so question 14.
Really? The last one's more easier to remember.
Oh, maybe. Oh, okay. Okay, question 14. What was Lorraine McFly's maiden name? Is it A, Barnes, B, Strickland, C, Baines, or D, Parker?
That'd be funny if it was Strickland. have the Strickland be, all up in Marty and be like, all up in Marty. Wait a minute, all up on Marty and know, his grandpa or something like that. I'm gonna go with Baines. Brain Baines.
That is correct.
I know.
Yeah, so you are
You telling me.
9 and 5. All right. Question 15. What is the name of the farmer who finds Marty in Back to the Future? Is it A, Mr. Sherman, B, Mr. McDonald, C, Mr. McAllister, or D, Mr. Peabody?
Oh, like I say, I'm gonna get this right, but I feel like this is a little easier because they more clearly mention this in the first movie than even the last one with Lorraine's maiden name. But this is the guy that he crashes into the barn, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I answer because I get this wrong. I don't care. I'm over 50%. My answer is going to be D, Mr. Peabody, because I feel like I remember that being. I remember there being something from like Sherman and Peabody, so that's why you kind of throw me off with Sherman. But I think it's Peabody, so I'm going to go with that.
That is correct. In Back to the Future, the first one, Marty crashes into the barn of Mr. Peabody, who promptly goes to investigate with his son, Sherman.
That's what it was.
Yes. Yes, so you...
I knew it was a reference to Sherman and Peabody.
Yeah. So you finished with 10 and 5.
Yeah.
I think you actually got... I don't remember what your record last week was, but...
12 and 6. I was listening to it today because I wanted to see how you did the break, that segment.
Oh, yeah.
The Wednesday release.
Yeah.
I was listening to it, watching it, and I ended 12 and 6.
Yep.
So not great, but they were tougher questions, people.
Yes, they were tougher
So-
because I'm gonna go a little harder on the Star Wars questions because I know you know more about Star Wars.
What kills me is I call myself a Star Wars fan, but I couldn't remember who Peter Mayhew or Anthony Daniels were. Anthony Daniels one is really the kicker. Like that one, I should have just known. When I blanked out on who Peter Mayhew was, that one didn't cost me the answer or anything. But man, I was listening to that earlier today, and I was just kicking myself. I was like, "What are you doing? You're stupid. You call yourself a Star Wars fan? Sit in a trash can. I don't know."
No, that's what Kenny Baker did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remembered him.
Yeah, you did. But yeah, like I said, if you like, some of the I probably shouldn't have done as many dates as I did. I know that was.
You for that.
I know that was.
What is this? High school? Thought I graduated.
I know that was. Well, okay, it's a time travel, franchise. So, that. But yeah,
Not getting off the leash. You're not getting off that easy.
yeah, whatever. Anyway. Let's go ahead and head on to What's New with You, because I feel like we got a lot to talk about with Ahsoka.
Maybe.
Alright.
What's new? What's new with you? What's new? What's new with you? What's new? What's new with you? Yeah!
Oh no, the car exploded!
Before you say anything, David. Say anything for that.
We should have done. I should have played that when we mentioned the DeLorean getting destroyed at the end. Back to the Future 3. That was a missed
We had
opportunity.
the perfect opportunity, and we forgot about it. Oh well.
was-
Anyways, let me introduce you to our not new segment. What's it called? What's new with you?
Hello there.
Hello there. What's new with you? What's up with you? Not much. Cool. Oh, into Ahsoka.
Okay, so
Before you ask that question, I want to know what you think of Ahsoka Episode 8, the finale, because there's things in this that I'm curious to see how you reacted to, because we've talked about this.
Okay, so
Certain things the episode does.
I know it's setting up future projects, but it kind of felt a little bit anticlimactic, just because there wasn't really a resolution. But again, I know it's setting up future projects. Possibly Ahsoka season 2, possibly Heir to the Empire. That's kind of still up into the air. Which one's gonna, if there's gonna be an Ahsoka season 2, or if Heir to the Empire is gonna pick up directly after this. But
Possibly both.
possibly, because also I don't know where they're going with all the Balin Skull, Shin Hati stuff. And
They could do Heir to the Empire the way it was originally written, with it being Thrawn versus Luke. Then season 2 of Ahsoka could be what's happening in the other galaxy and how they get back. They could do possibly both with
yeah,
it.
because right now, Ahsoka and Sabine are stranded in this other galaxy. With
Kind of like having their cake and shoving it down our throats.
with Ahsoka, with Balin Skull and Shin Hati, which we really did not get to see much of them this episode. So I do want to touch on that later on, because obviously with Ray Stevenson having passed away, I don't know what they're gonna do with that. Like might recast, might possibly have to do CGI or something. I don't know. It just depends on what they want to do with that. But that's kind of interesting too. Now, it was cool getting to see some like Clone Wars references and stuff. Obviously with Mother Talzin's sword that she used in Clone Wars, that Morgan Elsbeth uses to fight Ahsoka.
I'm interested to see if they find a way to bring her back. I mean, it's dark magic, so they can probably shoehorn her in pretty easily if they wanted to. So I'm kind of interested to see if they maybe are laying down some references, because I mean, Mother Talza is a huge part when you think of the Night Sisters. Obviously, too, it's been a while, and I don't know if they do this arc in Clone Wars or not. I know that there is an arc where Asajj Ventress, I think, dies during the Clone Wars. I think the end of it. With one of the other Jedi that she falls in love with, and something happens, and I think Dooku and something.
It's been a while since I watched Clone Wars, but
yeah, and I don't know if they did the arc there. I think it's from the comics, but I don't know if they did it in the thing or not. But I wonder if that's something too they might bring up, is maybe Asajj Ventress, because they're talking a lot about Night Sisters. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to see what they might bring in, because that was my biggest takeaway from this episode. Like you said, it was very lackluster. It didn't do much. It was a finale and it felt flat.
Mm-hmm.
So it got the F right, but it got an F as well. I don't know. I set up a lot of things. I'm also very okay. So in the Clone Wars, Mortis arc was one of the coolest arcs they did in the Clone Wars, and they referenced that with the father, the son, and the daughter in this. And we need to talk about this, because we didn't talk about this on the podcast, so we need to talk about this today. But the video I sent you from Star Wars Theory, with Anakin possibly being the embodiment of the good and the evil, kind of being the father, actually taking that role. That's another interesting thing if they may go about that. I also heard a thing where they said Ahsoka embodies the daughter. I don't necessarily understand how you would make that jump.
Well, no, that was actually in.
Doesn't seem to fit for me.
That was actually in Clone Wars, where she absorbed the whatever the light essence or whatever of the daughter when the daughter died.
I don't think, but they're saying from what I'm hearing, they're saying that she is the embodiment of the light side of the Force. I don't know if she necessarily fits.
Yeah, I don't know if that works, but because I think that's where they're getting it from. She absorbed it, the life force. From.
Yeah, I remember that. That's how she went from the evil and became good and all that stuff. Yada yada. But I don't understand necessarily them saying now she is the daughter now. Like Anakin maybe possibly is the father, he is possibly the. I don't get that link because I don't think she is the embodiment of the light side of the Force. Also, that also brings up in the consideration who, if they do that, I'm okay. I just need more explained. That's my biggest thing with most of this series. I need more explanation that they're not giving. But then who's the son going to be? Who's the embodiment of the dark side going to end up being? You know, that's one thing that's going to be interesting to see too.
It's Rey.
It's the sequel trilogy.
Okay. I do want to get. I'm not going to dive too much into this because I do want to get into it when we actually talk about the sequels. But Rey is on the dark side. There's a lot of evidence to support that. I'll come back to that when we actually talk about the sequels. But
see what you're getting at.
Okay, but what were we talking about? We were talking about that theory too. And so we'll come back to that too with the Anakin. We'll come back to that in a minute after we're done talking about Ahsoka, because that is an interesting theory that and we can't take credit for it because Wesley just sent me a video that Star Wars Theory had done about this theory that I actually really like.
I don't think he could take credit for it either because I think someone mentioned it to him on his message board or whatever. Well, so I don't know who actually originally came up with it.
I'll go ahead and just sum it up. But basically, the theory is that the Chosen One prophecy wasn't something that Anakin fulfilled in his lifetime. After he died, he became kind of this... kind of think of like... Heimdall, a little bit, like, you know, he kind of sees things throughout the you know, through the Force and stuff, but then he also is like you might be able to explain this a little bit better than I can. I see you have a way to do it.
So, he's basically, so the way that it was put was that he spent half his life in the light side and half his side in the dark side. So he sees both sides of the Force, and he's able to embody both sides. As we saw in Ahsoka episode 5, quickly changed from good Anakin to evil Anakin back to good Anakin. Like, he was doing what was needed to help Ahsoka. So it's thought that maybe he's transformed in kind of like the father role, where he's the embodiment of the Force in general. And
of the balance in the Force,
like the balance, because he can help both sides, and that's kind of what his job is. Like, there he helped Ahsoka, so now he's here to help keep balance with the Force. He's here to help Force users, stuff like that. So, you know, I like that idea because, like, that, and I mentioned this to you, but like that really helps me think of the end of Return of the Jedi, which I saw this theory after we recorded the podcast for Return of the Jedi, so we didn't mention it then, but it really fits with that in mind, because that makes so much more sense as to why he was able to transform into a Force ghost without having any prior training. Now, obviously, I understand. I know the canon answer, or what I believe is to the canon's answer, where Obi-Wan goes to him right before he dies and trains him. You know, they slow down time and yada yada. But I feel like this is such a better answer as to why. Like, I feel like that was, now we understand how Force ghosts work. Now we need an answer for something that happened in the past. This fits so much better, I feel like, for that, because he would have become a Force ghost no matter what, because that was the will of the Force. Like, he was going to transform into this other being because that's what his destiny was. He wasn't meant to have, like, you know, whatever in his life. He was supposed to be a Jedi. He was supposed to fall. He was supposed to be a Sith, and he was supposed to be redeemed at the end of his life, transform into the Force, and then become this, like, I don't know, you said like Heimdall, maybe like an angel kind of a thing to like help and lead other Force users, you know, who are in need, like Ahsoka in episode 5. I kind of like that explanation for it because, like, one, it just completely explains everything that happens at the end of Return of the Jedi. Like, I'm okay with the answer that we've had, but I feel like this just fits so much better if you take it in this, because if that's just his destiny, he's gonna happen.
It also makes the Chosen One prophecy make more sense. Because, and already, like, okay, so what is what is Anakin fulfilling his destiny as the Chosen One? Was it killing the Emperor, or was it actually, like, bringing balance to the Force and evening the number between light side users and dark side users? Because look at the look in the prequels. There's this entire Jedi Order. There's 2 Sith, and there's a couple other dark side users scattered around. Was that Anakin bringing balance to the Force, or was it killing Palpatine? Because I don't really understand how killing Palpatine brought balance to the Force either. So
because like the thought is like, what is balance to the Force? What does that mean? It's a very vague phrase. Like obviously we all know what balance is, but we don't know what balance within the Force necessarily means. So this, like you said, it helps that prophecy to be a little bit more understandable with your thinking on it, because like, how does he do it? Well, he embodies balance in the Force because he has both sides, because he has experience on both sides, because he can access the dark side as well as the light. He is able to basically just he's a level playing field when it comes to the Force. He is able to transcend both sides of the Force, and it makes more sense. And I like the theory. And here's the thing: who other than Dave Filoni would do something like that? Take something that, like, I love George Lucas and what he made was amazing, and I love everything that he's made. But there obviously are holes in Star Wars. Dave Filoni is a huge fan, and who other than a fan to fill in those holes? Now, that being said, honestly, I didn't care that much overall for Ahsoka. I feel like I might need to go back and watch Rebels and then watch Ahsoka again and maybe see what's coming next and watch that and lump it all together to maybe appreciate it a little bit more. Like I said, I'm not ready to throw stones at Dave Filoni for this. 2 episodes out of the 8 that I really liked, and I have a lot of problems with it. It was okay. It was hyped up to be a lot more than it was, and it should have been a lot more than it was. Obviously, like you said, it was setting something up, and I'm excited to see what it's setting up. I also, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, this might be getting us too far ahead of ourselves. I'm not sure. But anyways, I'm ready to see another Star Wars movie in theaters. I'm tired of Disney Plus shows, honestly.
And yeah, well, okay, I'm ready to see another, like, and have it that feeling that I did, watching Rogue One or The Force Awakens in the theater. Like, go see a Star Wars movie in the theater that actually feels like Star Wars.
Yeah. Like this sure, it felt like Star Wars, but I feel like one thing that it really just hinders it from feeling like Star Wars is the fact that, like, sure, I watch the movies at home, but like, it's different watching a Disney Plus show. Like, sure, The Mandalorian was good. I feel like they've oversaturated their shows with Star Wars. They're starting to do what Marvel's. Yeah, sure, they've released it over periods of time. Like, it's not all at one time they're lumping out all this content. I feel like, okay, here's the thing. There's very few, if any, of the Disney Plus shows, Star Wars shows, that I'm going to go back and watch. Because you have to watch them as a whole series. You can't just pick out episodes. I can go back and watch really any episode of Clone Wars. For the most part, it's an individual story. Not completely, but for the most part. I can probably do about the same, maybe a little less so, but about the same with Rebels too. I do need to rewatch Rebels. But like, you can't do that with the series on the. It's a TV show, and while they might work as TV shows, it should have been movies still. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Now. Okay, so there's one big thing in this episode that I feel like I've been vocal about with the past couple episodes, and I know you probably have an opinion on this too. But Sabine using the Force. Okay.
I've stopped caring.
Okay. So I didn't dislike it as much as I thought I would. I still feel like it was too much. But also, I'd seen I meant to send you this, but I didn't. But I'd seen a clip
Send me
from
a video.
I just seen you. Actually, no, it was in that video. But there's a clip from Rebels where Kanan and Hera are actually talking about Sabine using the Force,
Yeah, I remember that.
and Kanan actually makes makes a comment like about her, like everyone can use the Force.
Was it in the video?
Yeah, it was in the
I
video,
remember it.
but anyway.
Okay.
So, like even then, there is a precedent for that. So maybe I've been a little bit too hard on it for that, but still, I still feel like that was a little bit too much, showing a little bit too much for, of her. Maybe if it was just a lightsaber, bringing the lightsaber to her, but the, throwing Ezra over the gap was a little bit much.
I heard someone say they could have done with the lightsaber was what if they had it where she was trying to force it to her and you saw it move some and then Ezra pushed it the rest of the way to her.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would have to figure out some way to have gotten Ezra on the ship because they could have had her do the jump and then Ezra push her the rest of the way, but then Ezra wouldn't have been on the ship. So, yeah, I didn't hate it as much as, like you said, I didn't hate it as much as I would have at the beginning of this series. It's because I don't care anymore. Like, I was just watching it. I wasn't watching it to be critical. I was just watching it and hoping, but I knew that was going to happen. I've seen the clips. I've heard the stuff from Rebels. I remember all that. There were hints there. And I even heard something about there's even some hints that she could possibly be related to Vizsla.
Tar Vizsla?
Yeah, Tar Vizsla, right?
I think that's right. Yeah, I think it's Tar Vizsla.
First Mandalorian Jedi.
Yeah.
For anyone who actually knows what we're talking about but can't get past our mumbo jumbo. Anyways, there's thoughts about her being related to him. I will say the one thing that I don't like, because they haven't explained this enough. Everything about this, I just keep going back to the fact that they just don't explain anything. I wonder why. Anyways, is that reason Ahsoka stopped training her was because she feared that if Sabine reached her full potential, she would be too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
That obviously shows that whatever Ahsoka saw means that Sabine apparently has a strong enough connection. Now, Hugh Yang said that she has the least amount of Force connectivity that he's ever seen. If that's the case, then why? I mean, obviously she's a good fighter, and maybe she has some vengeance with her family having been killed. But like, why would she be so powerful that Ahsoka couldn't just take her down? I mean, you shouldn't be too powerful. Like that's what they were saying, though. That's what I felt like they were saying. I may have misinterpreted it. That's fine if I did. People can tell me I'm wrong. I don't really care. I've stopped caring. The show, it had 2 good episodes in it. I was let down in the first 4, and the last 2 have really been letdowns for me as well. So I've stopped caring. People can come to me and tell me that I'm an idiot. I'm thinking about this all wrong. I'm not a true Star Wars fan if I didn't like this. Like, it's when I listened to some Star Wars theory this morning about him talking about this, and he was asking people what their ranking of this show was. Like, what 1 out of 10, what was their rankings? He was giving it about like a 7.5 to 8. I'd probably give it about a 6.5 to 7. So it's above, 5. It's above average.
Mm-hmm.
It's not great.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't hate watching it. But like, I didn't really care. I watched it because we were talking about it. In all honesty,
Mm.
I didn't watch it because I was gonna specifically do it anyways.
Mm. As far as what you're talking about, what the Star Wars series audience was saying, that's probably about where I would put it. 7.5 to 8. Probably about 7.5. But I do have some problems with the show. But again, I do want to make it clear, like, I'm not. I still think Dave Filoni knows what he's doing. There's certain things I disagree with, certain creative decisions in the show I disagree with. But I still think Dave Filoni knows what he's doing. I still think he's the best person to do Star Wars now. And I'm really looking forward to Heir to the Empire.
And this thing is, like, I like what they set up. I thought this episode was lackluster. I liked what they were hinting at. And we're going to dive into some of that. Also, like I just mentioned it a couple minutes ago, I was like, I should go back and watch Rebels and then watch this again to see if I'm just watching it wrong. Like, I'm going to admit the fact that maybe I'm just missing what everyone else is seeing because they've seen things more recent. I don't know. Maybe my problems are maybe a lot of my problems are invalid. This is just how I feel at this point in time. I still trust Dave Filoni though, and like I said, he could flop this whole entire show, which he's done decent in my opinion, pretty good with the show. I think he can do better, and I think he will do better with Heir to the Empire and maybe even Ahsoka season 2. Now, here's the thing. I said I am tired of Disney Plus shows. I want movies, and I want. Honestly, this is weird to say, but I want less because you oversaturate the market. There's too much. So it's like I want movies and I want less of them. I want good stories. Good visual effects and good. Like I want what Star Wars was.
We don't need Star Wars turning into the MCU. Because that's the big problem with the MCU. Because you're talking about movies. Yes, the MCU still has movies, but 3 movies a year is too much.
In all honesty, like if you think back on it, you may not have gone back too many times to watch a lot of the older movies. Like up until Infinity War and Endgame, Marvel was putting things out at a really good pace. Obviously, I know after that was when COVID happened, all that stuff. And I think the big push for everything was because of a whole year that they didn't have movies coming out. But like, think about it. Like, they made really good movies, and they had
and I think
maybe 1 or 2 a year. It was just a steady flow.
I think the last 2 or 3 years of the Infinity Saga, they did do 3, but they were still good movies. Like, okay, so I think in the same year we got. Well, I don't remember, but I know in the same year we got Captain Marvel, Endgame, and No Way Home.
That was the end of the Infinity Saga. So.
Yes. And I think the year before that, we got Ant-Man and the Wasp, Infinity War, and there was one other one. Maybe Black Panther?
What year did Ant-Man come out?
Ant-Man was 2016, I think.
Didn't Ant-Man... Well, no, Guardians came out 2015, didn't it?
Yeah.
I was going to say Ant-Man, Guardians, and Doctor Strange. I thought they made it, but Guardians came out in 15, so that would have been.
I think Guardians and Age of Ultron were 2015, and then Doctor Strange and Ant-Man were 2016, I think. And then 2017 was
when did
2017 I think was Ragnarok and or was Civil War also 16?
I think Civil War was 16 because that was when Batman v Superman came out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't remember all the dates on this. We're talking about the MCU later on. I'll get the dates for that. The exact dates for this. So yeah, we're talking because we're talking about the MCU in like 2-3 weeks, something like that. So I'll get the dates for all of them, so we can actually.
Needless to say, we don't want an oversaturated, Marvel-esque Star Wars universe.
Yeah, because okay, so like Marvel now they're putting out three mediocre movies a year.
Mediocre at best.
Like okay, like most of the movies that Marvel's put out recently are like 4s, 5s, or 6s. Like that's not good. But like I said, I don't want Star Wars to become that. So I think Heir to the Empire will be, if it does get a theatrical release, will be a good, like, fresh thing to see, because we have seen oversaturation of the Disney Plus shows, but we haven't seen a good movie come out from Star Wars in a while. The last movie we had come out was Rise of Skywalker, and I think even though we haven't talked about that yet, we've made our opinions clear on those movies. But
The last good Star Wars movie that came out was Rogue One
Yep.
in 2016.
Yes.
That's a long time ago from now.
So yeah, Heir to the Empire, if it gets a theatrical release, will be a nice, refreshing restart to Star Wars.
Yeah.
But
That's the thing, too, is like you think about it with all that in mind. Like you said, Rise of Skywalker was the last one that we got. But the reason that they stopped making the movies was because of how bad the sequel trilogies did. I mean, yeah, obviously, Rise of Skywalker, or Force Awakens did really good. Like, was one of the biggest movies of the year and of Star Wars. But like that was because it had been like what 10 years since we had gotten a Star Wars movie.
yeah,
It was 2015, 2005.
Yeah.
So yeah, about 10 years since we got a Star Wars movie. Sure, we had the Clone Wars before that. Like, this was the first thing that Disney had.
And then
this is the first Star Wars movie back. It's like, that's why. But then you made some trash movies. No wonder it did so bad.
You also have to think about this too. Like, yes, it was a 10-year gap, but think about like people your and I age. Force Awakens was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters. And I know for a lot of people that was probably the case, because 90s kids would have gotten to see the prequels in theaters, but people born like late 90s, early 2000s, may not have gone to the theaters to see them. So that was the first Star Wars movie we saw in the theaters, and that's, as much as I dislike the sequels, that's something to be said, at least for The Force Awakens. I
like The Force Awakens enough.
Yeah. I saw
my problems with it.
I saw it 3 times in the theater. Like, I enjoyed watching it when it came out. But, of course, we have The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. We will be talking about those beginning of the year, so we don't need to be getting too much into this. But
see, that's the thing, though, is the way that they went about making the sequels was completely and utterly a disaster from the beginning, and they knew it because they didn't have a plan with it. That's the thing, is as Star Wars fans, we don't ask for much, we ask for a good story. And yes, okay, Star Wars fans are probably some of the worst fans out there because of how critical they are of people, but like, if you give us a good story and you give us something that like is enjoyable, and you put the right people on it, and you at least go into it with a plan,
and you can
you don't have to. The reason your movies didn't do well was not because of you made movies. It's because of how you went about making those movies. If you went about making those movies in a good way, you're gonna get what you had with Force Awakens. Now, yes, maybe Force Awakens isn't good. Doesn't really matter. It was a big release, but you're gonna get that if you make a good story that people can latch onto and they like.
And also,
you didn't do with the sequels.
Also, we want a good story, but you can break the norm. Like, that's what Rian Johnson was trying to do with the last Jedi, breaking the norm. You can do that. It just has to make sense.
Be stupid.
It just has to make sense within the canon that you've already established in the universe. And again, it has to be a good story.
And this is one thing that I really hope that doesn't happen with Dave Filoni's movie, that kind of happens with the sequel trilogy, and obviously, like I mentioned before, happens in the Ahsoka story as well. Explain things, put things in that explain what's going to happen later on. Put Easter eggs for foreshadow stuff. Don't just expect us to accept what you're telling us at this point in time in this thing. Like, I've watched enough things to know that I'm not the only one who had problems with certain aspects of the Ahsoka show when it came to the explaining aspect of it all. I don't think that they did a good job with that. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily going to translate into the movie. I hope not. I hope that gets better. I hope that they figure out a better way of doing all that stuff. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni were both, on this show doing stuff. So Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have made good shows before in Star Wars. They can do it. And this is all, I guess, we need to dive into some of these aspects of it, but we're going to talk about some of the things that they're setting up. So I really hope that those things that they set up are going to really... I think they're really cool ideas, and I hope they do them really well. It's like, just explain more to me. You don't need to treat me like I'm dumb, but you need to have those things there. If they're missing, then I'm not gonna understand your story.
So there's two things that I feel we need to talk about here too, for what they set up. So we've already talked a lot about what we dislike from the Ahsoka show. If you have not listened to those episodes, go back and listen to like the first like the podcast where we talk about like the first 3 or 4 episodes of Ahsoka. They're in the title, so you can see what episodes we talk about in which podcast. But talking about what they're setting up, so I kind of wonder if they're going to go the route of, so with Heir to the Empire, if they're going to go more the route of Ezra filling that spot that Luke did in the books.
It would be really hard for them to make an entire movie or trilogy with a CGI Luke.
Yeah. I feel like Luke could be in it, but I feel like Ezra is going to be the one to fill that role.
Also, with Rebels, they've already established that there's that thing going between Ezra and Thrawn.
Yeah. So it would make sense with the established canon as well.
And
I'd
be fine with that.
And also where they left off the show.
I'd be fine with that. They need to get a better stunt actor for him, because I haven't really cared for much of the action that he's a part of. It just doesn't look great. In my opinion, personally. Sometimes it looks fine, and then sometimes it looks like a little kid in the backyard, picking trees. Like it's like you could do better.
He may not have even had a stunt actor. That might be why.
Yeah, well, that probably was the thing. It didn't look like there was one. Obviously, it's a TV show. There's a smaller budget. There's a shorter time frame, but like, you can still do better than that. Anyways, we're getting off the criticisms for it. I would like the idea of them doing that. I would be okay with that. It makes sense, like you said. They could still have Luke in it, and he just wouldn't have to play as prominent a role, which would be hard for them to do with Mark Hamill being 80.
Something
Not
like that,
quite
yeah.
80, but he's almost 80.
He's in his 70s, yeah. But yeah. Now one thing I am kind of interested in too is one thing we talked about, well, since episode 6, is what exactly is Thrawn getting out of working with the Night Sisters?
I heard something about possibly all those things, cargo that he's pulling.
Their caskets?
Maybe caskets for the Night Sisters. That could raise him an army.
Yeah, I heard that theory too.
We did see the reanimated troopers in this one, which I thought was cool. Now, we did do this, and this is a downfall of Disney, okay? This is why Disney-owned Star Wars sucks. They didn't dismember them, which is what they should have done. Like Star Wars again. I really only listened to Star Wars Day this morning, just kind of get a brief idea of some stuff in this show of what other people were thinking. He was like Anakin and Obi-Wan. If they were in the scenario, they would have just dismembered every single one of those troopers, because then there wouldn't have been a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. As soon as I start,
I can definitely see him do that.
Yeah. As soon as I start getting up again, yeah, cut off their arms and legs.
Arms, legs, head. Like, we got one head roll in this because this is a kid show. Because it's Star Wars. It's like, just make it good.
Okay, and
put
again,
a rating next to it.
Again, I don't really want to see an R-rated Star Wars movie, but I want to see a PG-13 Star Wars movie. You know, like,
yeah, and PG-13, not just because it has action in it.
Yeah,
I want to see good action. And the thing is, Star Wars doesn't need to be R-rated. Because there's no blood, there's no gore, there's no sex, and there's no language. No, it doesn't need to be R-rated. It just needs to be PG-13 and have those elements just without the other things in it.
Yeah, look at Revenge of the Sith. Like, you know, it was PG-13. It was dark and it was heavy, and that's one movie that's a lot of people's favorite Star Wars movie.
The other one, okay, there's that one and Empire Strikes Back. Both of those are extremely beloved. Sometimes in the top, at least top, let's say top 5. There's 6 of the original trilogy. In the top 3. Like 3,
yeah.
Usually top 3 of Star Wars fans. Okay, both of them. Empire is obviously not as dark as Revenge of the Sith, but like. It's a darker movie. The good guys don't end in the wind. Luke loses his hand. Like, it's a darker movie. That's what Star Wars fans like. Like, yeah, sure, we all love A New Hope. But we also like ourselves a Revenge of the Sith and Empire Strikes Back style movie,
again,
too. But none of us like an Attack of the Clones, because that's just disgusting.
And again, in A New Hope.
Girls, cooties.
But again, in A New Hope, you know, you have Obi-Wan cutting off a guy's arm in the cantina.
Actually has blood.
Yeah.
Why did that never get edited out?
Don't give Disney ideas.
No. George Lucas, out of all the things you edited, why wouldn't you edit that out?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that one would make sense.
You can make Greedo say McClunky, but you can't edit out the blood.
I love George Lucas so much. I appreciate so much of what he's done, but God, yeah. All right. The Force triad. Trilogy. Trinity. It's not Trinity, but the Father, the Son, and the Daughter.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. So we already touched on that earlier, but yeah, obviously the theory that Anakin is now like in that role of the father, being the balance and the Force, being the guide to Force users.
So have you heard the origins, or not the origins, but I guess have you heard of the mother, the origins of the Father, Son, and Daughter?
I have. I don't know the ins and outs of it though.
Okay, I'm going to give a quick refresher of what I remember, because I had it a little bit refreshed, because there's a theory with this, of what Balin is looking for.
Okay.
So, I think they said 4,000 or 4 million, I don't remember, however long, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, a long time before New Hope, the Father, the Son, and the Daughter lived on this planet with a helper. Human helper, and this human helper eventually becomes the mother. What she does, though, she starts to get a little older, and she loves the family, and she wants to help and take care of them or whatever. So there's this pool of some kind. It has a name, but there's this pool, and she goes into the pool, and it basically gives her the powers that she can be like the Father, Son, and Daughter, and she becomes the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Which she doesn't make a whole lot of sense because the son's the embodiment of evil, but she is like 10 times more evil. Like she is so bad. So they imprison her on this planet, and they leave. And then yada 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 stuff happens, and then we see them in the Mortis arc. Where the daughter dies. I think the father dies too, and I don't know what happens to the son. I think they all die, don't they?
It's been a while since I've seen that arc, but I think so.
Okay. I think they all die. I definitely can be wrong on that. I don't remember. It's not that pertinent to the story. But basically, what's thought is this pool could be what Balin is looking for. And maybe this planet or this galaxy is where the mother is. Now, there are some comics where later on Luke finds and confronts the mother, or faces the mother, and he has to eventually beat her. But she is extremely powerful. Now, I don't know necessarily how this has been mentioned, and it makes sense. You know, when they're having problems bringing Starkiller into the canon universe, I don't know how they'll bring her into it. But I mean, they made this is what I heard. They were like, yeah, I don't know how they bring her in because they have her in the comic book universe, but I don't know how they bring her into the mainline canon. And it's like they're both fictional. Just put them in there. Like, who cares the power set? Like, I guess you do have a already power set for people, but it's like you can gauge it, for the universe. But that would be an interesting thing for them to do is bring her in, and have maybe Balin be looking for that.
So what if you just kind of gave me an idea here with it, and this might be part of what this theory is here, but. Okay, so what I'm building on that theory. So basically, what if that is what Balin's looking for? This pool that gave the mother his powers or whatever. What if that also kind of acts as like a fountain of youth kind of thing, mitigating the need to have, or essentially like,
change actors without it being a problem.
Yeah. Having Balin's skull basically get rejuvenated by this pool or whatever.
Or even outside of that, you could do it in such a way that you could make it where even if Ray Stevenson was still alive, you have to use so much CGI or makeup to create his face that you could get someone that looks similar. It wouldn't be a problem, Because because when we see the father, son, and the daughter, they don't just look like normal people. They look, if they were in real life, they would have some makeup on them, But yeah, you could do a rejuvenation angle. You could do a bunch of things with that. But I feel like that's probably what he's looking for because that's a extremely powerful thing. And why wouldn't it? Like, where else in the universe would it be? Why wouldn't it be in another universe? Like, this is possibly the origins of the Force. And we do have the thing with in this other galaxy, at least in Legends, like the Yuzon Vong and stuff like that, who
also
a lot of times where the Force is originated from.
If you do the whole thing of the the mother, whatever. What if the mother wasn't necessarily imprisoned but left behind, and she essentially became the first Night Sister? She's long dead, but the Night Sisters are, came out of that.
Well, if she's the mother, she's anything but long dead, but could be
maybe
told differently.
I'm just saying, probably if they do bring this into canon, it might not be. It's probably not going to be exactly like it is in the comics. But
yeah.
I
like. Okay, here's the thing. Because I am so fascinated and I love all the legend stories from basically anything before the Republic, and just everything that happens before Episode 1. Like, I like that as opposed to really anything after Return of the Jedi. Like, I like Old Republic, ancient stuff. Like, I like learning about those things and listening and reading stuff like that. This would dive into that. Like, this could probably, whatever way you want to go about doing it within the Star Wars universe, like, you could explain the origins of the Force with the father, son, and the daughter, because they're the embodiment of the Force, basically. Like, that is as ancient as you get. you know, and like if that all originated in this other galaxy and then you bring it over here, like, like I said, the Yuuzhan Vong, they're in Legends at least, they're from this galaxy. They're from this other galaxy, possibly. So like, they're strong within the Force too. So the Force could have originated in this other galaxy, originated with the father, son, and the daughter, and then they left when the mother got too powerful and they had to either entrap her or strand her on this planet.
And like I said, if they did introduce the mother with the like Night Sister angle, that would also kind of explain why there's like a. Because I know technically Night Sisters do like pull from the dark side of the Force with their magic. But that would kind of explain why there's a difference between like the father who's the balance in the Force, the daughter who's the light side, and the son who's the dark side. That would also explain why there's this other dark side, one. Because it could be the daughter represents the Jedi and the son represents the Sith, but the mother represents the Night Sisters. That could be another angle to that. But
I do like that idea. I think it'd be really cool if, like, let's say they did like this, where maybe the mother wasn't necessarily dead and long gone, but she was sleeping or in hibernation of some kind, and like the goal was to stop them from waking her up. Maybe you even get to see her for a brief period of time, but she's not at full power. They have to beat her before she gains full power. You could do that, and you could null her powers a little bit while also still saying, no, if she came back, she would be as powerful. Ever like maybe come back, regenerate.
If you did introduce that,
animate.
That would probably be what the Night Sisters are wanting to do is resurrect the mother. But I can't imagine that Thrawn would be too keen on doing that, because he kind of wants.
The thing is, you'd have to figure out his angle on it, because it's like, yes, he could take over the galaxy with that, but he wouldn't be in charge. So,
because
you have to figure out how to do that.
Obviously, right now, it's kind of the Night Mothers or whatever are kind of seen as equals with Thrawn almost, but Thrawn's using them for something. He wouldn't be allied with them if he wasn't getting something.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, and it will be interesting to see as this goes on. Whenever we get more content pertaining to this, like what his angle is, because we don't really know much about what Thrawn is planning here. A lot of that's kept in secret, which is good. That needs to be kept in secret. That, not anything else. That, hear me, writers. That, anyways. It's like I'm interested to see what all that is.
Because Thrawn doesn't need to be one of these villains who delivers all this exposition about his plan. He's smarter than that.
Yeah, no, he's just a little bit smart. He's a step up. He's a step up from Dr. Doofenshmirtz. So I do have a question for you. It's an interesting thought. So, the sun is the embodiment of evil. Let's be honest here. Who's more evil, the sun or Emperor Palpatine?
Yeah, that's true. That's okay. Well, again, we don't get to see much of the father, the son, and the daughter.
Yeah, we don't.
It's a few episodes.
Also, you gotta think.
So we don't really
get to think about this.
Compared to how much we see Palpatine, we don't get to see much. So that's kind of hard to gauge from what we see on screen. Obviously Palpatine is portrayed as being way more malicious, and but again, we don't get to see the son that much.
Another thing that came to mind just now, I'd heard that question, and I was like, I want to ask that. It's obviously the obvious answer is Palpatine, even though still would look at it and be like, we haven't seen enough from the son to really gauge that. But I don't remember what his name is. The Sith Lord, Dark Nihilus is the only thing that's coming to mind. Um, Empress. No, that was name's Master. Um, It was his name.
Darth
The
Bane?
guy who, no, the guy who kept himself alive because of his rage.
Crap, I just saw a video about that earlier today.
No, me too. Because the name, his name is one of the, I think one of the ships in the show. They mention his name in the show. Darth Nihilus is the only thing that's coming to mind. That's not him. Ion? Darth Sion? Sign-on? Sign-on. Okay, I gotta look up some Darths here.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know exactly who you're talking about, but oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be Darth Sion. I think it's him. Yeah. Because yeah, okay. From his very beginning, Darth Sion filled himself with hatred, ultimately giving him the power to overcome death.
Mm-hmm.
Chose to embody his pain. Oh, it's taking me someplace else. All right, let's see. Let me read the rest of this. Yeah, this is the guy, Darth Sion. That's who I was thinking of. But yeah, it's like he's not more of an embodiment of the dark side. Guy who's literally dead, but the only reason he's still alive is because he's so filled with hatred.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and what's her name? Kills him, I think. Because he was with XR Kun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. It's been a while since I've really dove into a lot of these. I love these stories. Like these. This is what I like about Star Wars. These old stories like this. And the thing is, too, a lot of the Old Republic and a lot of these old things like this. These are darker stories.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just like them.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and again, if we ever got anything in canon with like Darth Sion or Darth, well, okay, I would say like Darth Bane or like Nihilus or even Revan would probably be more along the lines of like the like Revenge of the Sith, like darker Star Wars tone. But if we were to get something R-rated in Star Wars, it would be Darth Sion.
Hmm.
That's like just that
This is look.
his look and just how much how much darker of a character he is compared to most else of the Star Wars legends.
I mean, he went to battle to die. Like, he was looking to die.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing if someone could best him. He was looking for pain in battle. And, like, that was before he went and got killed and then came back to life because of his hatred. So, I mean, he only died because he was like, oh, this is so much hate. I've changed my mind. Right? Dead. I mean, like, it's a hateful guy. But there's so many cool Sith Lords that I would love them to go into depth about in something. Don't make a Disney show about it. Honestly, probably don't even make a movie about it.
Okay,
Maybe make a game,
So what I want to see, like, if they want to keep making shows, keep making animated shows. Like, the best things that they've made Disney Plus. Well, okay, so first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian were amazing. Those were good. I also don't, those also didn't feel like they could have been movies. The Tales of the Jedi, that's probably, of the Star Wars shows that have come out more recently, that's probably my favorite.
Yeah. Watching those.
Yeah. I would love a Tales of the Jedi season 2. Just to fill in these tiny little gaps in Star Wars canon that, there's an explanation for somewhere, but, there's just not, And like I said, like...
They need to do...
Like, do Tales of the Jedi season 2, do like 1 or 2 episodes about Baylan Skull during the Clone Wars, why he left the Jedi Order, get a little more of that character. You can even do more with maybe do more with Kanan when he first went into hiding. We can get a lot more of these little stories here and there from different periods in Star Wars history.
You mentioned this, and I would love this idea. If they made, I think they need to make a series about it. But like you said, I think I remember you talking about this. But like Tales of the Sith, you don't have to call it that. But like, go back and don't just give yourself a 30-minute, 20-minute time frame to make a short little episode about these Sith that everyone wants to see a full-length movie about. Maybe have like different stories about them, different episodes. You wouldn't have to have like 3 stories about the same person in a row. Like, tell certain stories about these Sith, and like maybe even revisit ones that you already told. Like revisit characters that you've already told a story about before. Like
let us
that they don't all have to connect. Like, tell us about all these old ancient Sith.
Or even like let us get to see like a little bit more about Vader hunting down Jedi after Order 66 during the Purge, or
Than that.
or you could even do like Darth Maul before Phantom Menace.
So many good things you could do with it.
We could get to see all the ancient Sith. We could get to see Darth Plagueis.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, though, I don't think that they need to. They've been doing this more recently. I feel like it doesn't all have to be live action.
No.
I honestly, at this point in time, I would prefer, if you're gonna make a TV show, I would prefer you to make it animated.
I would agree
with
that too. Okay, so like Bad Batch. It's not my favorite show. I think of the 3 big animated shows, Clone Wars, Rebels, and Bad Batch. If you're talking about those 3, it's at the bottom for me. But it actually flows like a TV show. All the live action shows they made. The Mandalorian was a little bit better about this, actually, flowing like a TV show, but the others are just miniseries. They're movies that are stretched out over 6 hours.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I liked Mandalorian, season 1 and season 2. But I would go and watch Clone Wars, Bad Batch, Rebels before I would watch any of the live action shows again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just me personally. And obviously they're more meant as somewhat of a kid show, so you can kind of just go in and watch stuff. Like, I don't know, I just on an enjoy level, I enjoyed those more than I did any of the live action ones, honestly. And obviously, like I because Mandalorian was I think Mandalorian season 2 was really good. Mandalorian season 1 was good, but I feel like a lot of that also had to do with the fact that you were just like, oh, Star Wars. I get Star Wars. It was a new thing. It wasn't that it wasn't good. It was just like,
so
it kind of was the same thing with Force Awakens.
So Mandalorian season 1 was the Star Wars thing. We get more Star Wars. Mandalorian season 2, a lot of that is 1, getting to see Ahsoka live action for the first time, and then 2, getting to see Boba Fett again, and then Luke. The season 2 definitely played to the nostalgia.
Yes. And I mean, obviously, even with that too, like they might have introduced in season 1, but I don't necessarily. It's been a while since I've seen season 1, but I know in season 2 they introduced the Darksaber, and that also plays into a lot of nostalgia with it. So there were a lot of nostalgia points to it, but it was good. It was a good storyline too, and the Mandalorian's a cool character. like you said, I would much rather, if I'm watching a TV show, it needs to be a cartoon. Star Wars. I think that would do a lot better for it. I don't know if they're going away from that, but I feel like the balance that we had under George Lucas with Clone Wars being the TV show animated and then having all the movies was a good balance.
And like, especially once we got into like later Clone Wars, where like, okay, really, okay. So I had actually rewatched like past couple weeks. I've seen a couple of the older Clone Wars episodes. The animation is kind of janky and robotic.
In the first couple seasons,
Yeah. Later on, when
compared to later on,
later on the animation is like perfect, and then you also get the more intricate storylines. I was about to say adult storylines, but then they're still, a kid can still watch them. But the more intricate storylines that are well, like I think it's the first Mandalorian arc is when we really start to get to see this, and then all that. But
yeah, I see what you're saying. I did watch the first episode a couple weeks ago. I don't remember why. I just wanted to watch. I was like, let me start with the first episode. And yeah, it doesn't look as good as a lot of the later ones, and it's obviously like it's more of a kid's show when watching it. Like Yoda is going to meet this. I don't remember what the species is called, but the flappy people. And he's going to meet them to talk about them aligning with the Republic. You know, and the whole episode is them and his 3 troopers getting to the meeting, while Asajj Ventress sends out droids to stop them. And it's like that's a very simple plot, and Yoda's teaching the clone troopers. At that point in time, he's teaching them, hey, you're worth a lot. You're important to me. Maybe small in number, but we have more mind. Like there's little lessons here and there that are really good. And obviously, we all know the intro to the Clone Wars, and it has that little saying, little wise saying at the beginning of every single one. It's like it's meant for kids, but they do eventually start giving more intricate storylines, and storylines that, like, even in Ahsoka TV show, we're still talking about some of these storylines because of how important to the Star Wars universe they are.
Yeah.
It started out as a kids show.
Well, and also you get the character of Darth Maul is an amazing character because of Clone Wars.
Yeah, he would be another Boba Fett otherwise.
Okay. In The Phantom Menace, he's a cool character. But because of Clone Wars and Rebels, it makes him a really good character. I would argue an amazing character.
Oh, I want to ask this question. I agree with what you said, but I want to ask this question. So, in the original thought, for what George Lucas apparently wrote out at least an idea. He might have had scripts. I'm not entirely sure how far in the process he got. But he wrote out what his idea for the sequel trilogy was.
Having Maul and Darth Talon.
Darth Maul was going to be... Yeah, Darth Maul was going to be a player in it. What if Night Sisters reanimate Maul?
Oh,
would that make sense?
Dang.
And what would you think of that?
Oh, dang.
Here's my only thought with it. Okay.
I gotta take a minute to process this. Go ahead and say what your thought is, but
okay. My only thought is would that insignificate? Would it make him and Obi-Wan's duel less significant? That's my only thing. Other than that, I feel like that is a extremely cool idea and a very cool way of bringing Maul back.
Okay. So it kind of depends. So if they reanimate him, would it actually be him, like consciously him, or would it just be like, essentially a zombie that's his corpse?
I think if they brought him back, they need him to be him.
Mm.
Because Maul was a genius, honestly, when it came to battle strategy and all that stuff. He was trained by Palpatine, so he's not too shabby. I feel like they need to bring him back. He couldn't just be brute force.
Mm-hmm.
Now they could bring him back, and you can say what you will about that scene with Obi-Wan. Like, if Filoni did that, he wouldn't have to retcon something that George Lucas did. He'd have to redo something that he did, and it could have been something he was planning, and that could be why Paul's not around during the original trilogy.
Mm.
Even in the shadows.
Yeah.
Because Han Solo did deal with a lot of the smuggling groups, so you'd think that even someone as big as Paul was getting would still have been a hitter that Han probably would know about.
Well, even in Solo, you see the Maul's behind it all. So
yeah, and they've never. I mean, obviously Solo bombed, so they just left that hanging, but brought him in something,
Mm-hmm.
But I think that'd be an interesting way to go about doing it. I wouldn't mind it. I don't know, like they could do it in such a way where maybe they reanimate him and there'd be some aspects to it that you'd have to be careful about because you could potentially fall into problems with the way that they made his character in Rebels. Specifically when he dies. So they'd have to be very delicate with how they go about doing it, which is probably why they're not going to do it. It's a cool theory to potentially see a reanimated Darth Maul. I don't know how they do it, but they could reanimate
Savage Press.
his brother's name. Savage Press. Yeah. And he's missed now, but they could reconjure him.
I feel like that's a cool idea. I feel like the extent of what they would do with that though is maybe just having like, a Night Sister like vision or something with Maul in it.
Yeah.
Because obviously, who played Maul in The Phantom Menace?
No idea. I just know Sam Witwer plays him in the TV show.
Yeah. Well, okay. The guy who played him in Phantom Menace also played him in Solo, but Sam Witwer did the voice.
Solo? Or both? Yeah. He talks in Phantom Menace.
Yeah, but he talks in Phantom Menace, but he's dubbed over in by Sam Witwer in Solo. Hold up.
About to look it up.
Yeah. Ray Park. Yeah. Okay. But yeah. Ray Park did it. Played Maul in Solo, but Sam Witwer dubbed over the voice. But I don't know if you get both of them on board to come back. I don't see why not.
I mean Sam Witwer's around all of Star Wars, so
yeah. Sam Witwer wouldn't be that hard to persuade to come back. If you can get Ray Park to come back, I would like to see it Maul in like a vision or something.
What you do with Sam Witwer is say, "Hey, today we're recording these lines," and he'd be like, "Well, I mean, he's an avid Star Wars fan, so it wouldn't be that necessarily that easy." But like, hey, we want to bring him back, and be like, "All right, here's the logistics of it," and I go into not his office, but whatever he does over there day to day.
Or okay, so here's kind of what I'm thinking, like what I'm talking about with that. Okay, maybe not necessarily like have him like come back as like a main villain or something, but what if like in Heir to the Empire, since obviously Thrawn and the Night Sisters are working together, what if Ezra's hunting them down, and the Night Sisters basically put this like vision thing or whatever on Ezra, or even like temporarily conjure like Darth Maul, and Ezra has to fight him. Because think about that too. If anyone was going to fight like reanimated corpse of Maul, it would be Ezra. Because of all the Jedi who are still, well, I mean Ahsoka obviously fought him, but like I feel like Ezra has more of a connection to Maul.
Yeah. And that's another thing too is where's your lightsaber duel? An heir to the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have one. If you're gonna have one, where's it at? Thrawn doesn't wield a lightsaber. You could do something with the Night Sisters, but you don't really have another person to do a fight like that with.
Mm-hmm. Unless you bring back Ventress.
Yeah, but at her end of her arc, she was turning more good than she was that. So I don't think she'd go for the Empire. And she was a bounty hunter last we saw her, and I think she was leaning more towards the good side anyway. So I feel like she was long past being evil.
Mm.
I'd like to see her, but I don't know if that would fit her character.
Mm. But well, actually, no, I think Ventress does die in Clone Wars because isn't there an arc with Quinlan Vos?
Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah. So I think Ventress does end up dying in Clone Wars. That might have been what I may be thinking one of the cut arcs, but I think that is canon. Anyway, but yeah. So I think Ventress does. So either way, they still have to one of the Zabraks. Obviously wouldn't be that hard to bring in with like reanimation from the Night Sisters because obviously the Zabraks have that connection. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure. There's a lot of things that you could do with it, but
anyway, I feel like we've kind of filled up our time because I know you said we weren't going to record as long, but I
was looking at the time and I was like, dang, I thought I was going to get out of here early.
But yeah, we're almost at 2 hours and 25 minutes here, so I feel like we should go ahead and wrap things up. But yeah, I'm
barely spent any time on Back to the Future, but
yeah, well, Star Wars.
Star Wars.
But yeah, I am really excited to see where they're going with this. I do have some problems with Ahsoka. All in all, I thought it was a really good show. But yeah, like I said, I'm really excited to see where they're going with all this.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we've mentioned it before. It's in Dave Filoni's hands, and that's where I trust it for now. He hasn't done enough for me to have any problems with it.
Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap things up and head out and do an outro.
Sounds good.
Well, explorers, that's about all the time we have for today.
Hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Let us know what you thought in the comments down below, or you can DM us on Instagram at DownTheRabbitTrailYT.
Leave a like, subscribe, and tell your friends. And be sure to join us next week on The Trailcast.